This is the only podcast, by the way, where you're going to get both a discussion of Barbie, Shein, and superconductivity in one shot. So you're welcome.
More or less. Is it no or is it yes? We'll debate the text that's best when we get more or less. Dave and Britt plus Sam and Jess put it all right to the test. More or less.
Well, hello. How are you guys doing? What's cooking?
Well, what's cooking is the Taylor Swift concert happened in
I was
Silicon
gonna
Valley
say.
this weekend, and it was a big deal.
It was a very big deal. And I know you guys were there, but like, have you come down from the high yet? I know Dave hasn't, but like,
I had like a full day hangover, and I wasn't even really drinking. It was just a hangover of energy.
Yeah, it was its own altered state. I think she's on a new level that is hard to put into words.
so like what, first of all, did you bring your kids?
Absolutely.
Yes, minus the baby.
Yeah, the baby stayed
What was
home.
that like? Was it their first concert?
One of our kids mostly loved the fire element, and then the other was actually like dancing and knew the songs. And that's pretty typical of our two kids' personalities. But
It was not their first concert.
Wait a
Their
minute.
first
There
concert
was fire?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
can we get you to come to the next one, Sam? If there's
I-
fire?
we
haven't
can
I
talk
been-
about the world too.
Haven't I been to a Taylor Swift concert?
Yes, we went last time she was in the Bay Area, but this was next level. We just, are elsewhere. But first, we have to welcome our listeners. Hello. Thank you all for joining us for this week's episode of More or Less, where we go inside the most important things happening in Silicon Valley, and more importantly, what people are saying about them. So, as you can tell, it has been an exciting time in the Bay Area with Tay-Tay coming to town. And so here we have a full complement this week. We have Mr. Dave. I probably can't pick my favorite era, Morin. Although if you do have a favorite era, you can tell
Reputation.
us. Reputation, hands down.
Is
Okay.
Reputation an era?
Oh,
Sam,
yeah.
just stop talking before you embarrass yourselves itself and can no longer be on the internet. Sam, who doesn't know the eras, that's probably a good one. And Britt Morin, who can probably recite all the songs from every era.
Who can transcend all eras, Jess. I can be every Taylor, and I'm happy to.
Which Taylor did you go to as, or did you represent?
Well, I represented Taylor from one of her big Grammy Award wins. So I replicated the dress that she wore. It had flowers all over it. And there was a comparison on Instagram. And thank you to my loyal audience who voted 60% that I wore it better.
Did you do this comparison?
Did anyone do like future eras of Taylor, like old Taylor Swift as dress up?
Oh, that's a good idea.
I bet Midjourney could do this really well, Sam. And we could do
That's
the voice.
a really good idea.
AI Taylor with the voice.
That's what
and
I would
the
go
looks.
as. I'd go as 80-year-old Taylor.
That's a good idea, Sam.
The album will be 80. That will be the name. And
I have to say that the thing that I was looking into today, just to keep it on topic for this podcast, was the sheer business scale of what's going on with Taylor right now.
There was some Fed note, wasn't there?
Yeah,
she's definitely helps
some-
the economy. Yeah, definitely helped the economy. But that's like hotels and stuff.
yeah, she's grossing an average of $13.6 million per show. The average ticket price is $1,300. I mean, she's selling something that's average ticket price is higher than the iPhone. And
I have a
she's on
question
track
for the
to
crowd.
do $1 billion.
All right, Sam, knowing all this data, she does $1 billion for this tour alone.
Just the US leg.
If you were to acquire Taylor Swift, okay, just the US leg, $1 billion. Sam, if you were to acquire Taylor Swift right now, how much would you buy Taylor Swift for?
I mean, a lot is the answer. But I think
More than WhatsApp?
More than 20 billion?
Yeah.
Or is it more?
Would you? Yeah, WhatsApp
I
was
mean,
20
probably
billion.
not, because here's the difference. Taylor Swift has a lot of fucking costs, right? Like, it's not like, yeah, you make 13 million a night. What does it cost to put on the show and the whole 9 yards?
Let's also, just one data point that's relevant
People
to
have done
this.
the math. I mean,
50% margin.
She's
She's
going to
taking
take
home
down
over 500 million.
Yeah, 500 million, and then
Yeah, but then she's got to pay 50% taxes on it. It's really only $250 million. It's a lot of work. I don't know. I'm not saying it's not valuable. It's not infinitely valuable versus software.
You take WhatsApp over Taylor Swift.
Wait, you're asking me like literally, could I have WhatsApp today with whatever it is, 2 billion users, but no money being
What's up
made?
at the time of acquisition?
So it was like
I still
19
probably
people.
take WhatsApp.
It's interesting though, because Taylor allegedly, and who knows how accurate these things are, but has basically just become worth $1 billion. And when I see that, I'm like, a lot of founders make that much money, by doing, I think, a lot less than Taylor Swift has.
There are many crypto startup founders that were worth $1 billion last year, actually.
Yes, there were many. There were many.
I do think there is a difference, though. Is like there's a difference in because the question of like what her brand and the IP is like a little bit different than her like cash account balance. So like I do think it's like I do think she's worth her. It's the old Trump thing where Trump used to claim he was a multi-billionaire because his brand was so valuable, and it was like hilarious because like he didn't have that much money, but he's like, well, but my image is worth a ton of money. And my line on that always used to be, well, if you really believe that, you can say whatever number you want, but you should pay taxes on what you think your image is worth then, not just like your cash account balance. I mean,
free speech, Sam. Free speech. I don't know about that. But yes, your point is she's way more valuable. I agree, but it's just a reminder. I mean, which is the Kardashian that has the lipstick company? Kylie.
Yeah, Kylie.
Well, and I was looking at this, Jess,
And
because you were mentioning this on our thread. And the Kardashian, I mean, Kim Kardashian only owns something like 13% of Skims. And so
Skims isn't the best example. The lip company is a better example because I think she owns a lot more. And she was on the cover of Forbes years ago. I mean, look, for all these successful businesswomen, but I just think it's a reminder of how actually certain types of businesses, it's sort of much easier to build value.
Can I give my game I used to play about this, which is, there's social capital and there's financial capital. And I think the idea that Taylor just passed $1 billion in financial capital, I believe, right? When you think about the monetization side of what she does. But the social capital thing is like way more valuable. And people always like, well, what's social capital worth? And this is the game I always play with people. I say, okay, pretend a devil came to you and said, you can either give up all of your cash, like all the money you have, or your identity. Which do you give up, right? And what's interesting is very poor people, right, and very rich people generally say they'd give up all their money. Poor people say it because they don't have any. Rich people say it because most rich people, unless they won the lottery, have networks and a life and whatever. They're like, I can regenerate the wealth. It's only a question in the middle class, right? And so I think in the Taylor case, like if you said to Taylor Swift, hey, would you give up all your cash or your identity? It's such an obvious question. What that means is that her identity is worth way more than $1 billion.
No question.
Oh, clearly. But it's interesting to compare the different metrics in the real world. And actually, this does get us to our topic of the day, because what we were going to talk about today is we're going to shift from Taylor to Barbie. Have you guys seen the movie?
This is my favorite episode so far already, and we're like just a few minutes in.
This is the Brit episode. Sam and I have not seen the Barbie movie yet. We're dealing with childcare
that makes
issues.
3 of us. There's 3 of us who haven't seen it.
Okay, 3 who haven't seen it. But basically, Sam, do you want to bring up the question you posed about the impact to Mattel's business here? Because I think we're at a very interesting moment in terms of the future of franchises. IP, where sort of, again, value is going to be created, what that looks like with digital versus in-person versus retail. And there's an interesting debate around what all this Barbie buzz is actually going to do for Mattel's bottom line and what other businesses may learn from it. So, Sam, over to you, because you were...
Well, I was asking about this because, it's been interesting to me to watch in the last, few weeks that, like, Mattel's stock price has not gone up a lot. And I think even, by any estimate, this movie has outperformed expectations, is my sense. That's my...
like $700 million in box office, $775.
It's big. I mean, and people thought it'd be big. It's bigger than people thought it would be. And, like, it's kind of done its thing. And, on the CEO of Mattel is super smart, has been, for a while telling this story, which I think is an interesting one, about Marvel and kind of IP libraries and the idea that Mattel actually, beyond being a toy company, really has this incredible IP library. And this would be the first demonstration of that. And it's interesting because I think it's a reasonable thesis, right? Like it's a reasonable thesis that if Hollywood is now one big Marvel studio, that like there is other IP that should be valuable and you can unlock, right, through things like Barbie movies, right, that should create value for things like Mattel. But investors at least don't seem to be believing it yet, right? Or not materially in the case of Mattel, right? It's still a toy company according to investors, despite this win. So I was just asking people's opinions on this and how they see it. Like, what's the, is it because the Barbie movie people are worried is like going to be super successful, but isn't replicable into a Hot Wheels movie, right? Is it like, what's the story in terms of how people think about these IP libraries beyond the kind of biggest ones in the world, like the second tier, effectively?
And you mean public market investors, right? Because we've been long hearing for, I would say, the last 5 years that there's a lot of activity in the private markets around the acquisition of these IP libraries, particularly in the 90s, the 80s and 90s, IP.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like the Bob Dylan death rights and things like that are all super interesting, I'm with you. I just mean specifically, like, if you believe there's any rationality to the markets anymore, like, why hasn't Mattel stock gone up with the biggest movie hit in a while, especially against a theoretical thesis, right? Which someone has to believe, which is it's not a one hit, just a bunch of cash flow once, but like they have a valuable content library. Or IP library that historically, and monetizing through toys is not the future.
But Britt, what do you think about this? Because you've thought a lot about this.
Well, Disney invested in my company, Brit & Co., a few years ago. And as part of that investment, I got the privilege to go sit with Bob Iger quite a bit and meet all of the executives of all the segments of Disney. And what I didn't think was true, but is that the parks and products business is actually in one business unit, parks, experiences, and products, is one of the most profitable units at Disney. And it's actually one of the biggest. It's the second biggest.
Is that Cousin Greg's zone?
Yeah, it's Cousin Greg's zone.
Cousin Greg.
Living Plus.
Britt, by the way, I'm having a
that's a different
flashback
unit.
to your, but all Succession references are welcome. But Britt, I bought some Brit & Co. product in Target. I remember this.
Well, this was a lot of media companies outside of news-oriented companies like yours were following the Disney playbook. It's why Disney invested in Brit & Co., right? It's content, it's physical products, and it's experiences. And those are the three components that helped build Disney. Those are the three components that a lot of digital media startups believed would build themselves before advertising imploded. And now what you're seeing, the difference is like you're seeing the switch to subscription, right? So even in Disney's media unit, media and entertainment, they're largely being driven by Disney Plus and subscribers. Mattel does not have that part of their business. And so they're kind of playing catch up right now. Like Mattel started as a products business, is trying to get into a content business now. And it's opening a Mattel theme park next year in Arizona, by the way, to start driving its experiential business. So, obviously it's a much smaller business than Disney. It's like a $5 billion versus $82 billion like gross revenue business annually. But I do think they're trying to employ that same strategy that Disney has taken. And it's just going to take them a lot of time to create not only the amount of content, but the number of franchises that Disney has. Like Disney, unless they acquire. I mean, Disney acquired like Lucasfilm to get Star Wars.
Becoming as big as Disney. The goal is growth for Mattel, right? So, I mean, even if it's possible they could execute that strategy.
Well, it certainly looks like they're going towards a Disney-esque strategy, and they're building a theme park.
But I meant that they don't need to be as big as Disney for it to be counted as a win.
No, I'm just saying that, I think there's like three legs of the stool, which is content, products, experiences, and like they accelerate in products, but not really content and not really experiences. And so they're going to be building out those two legs of the stool.
Although, Britt, what you're saying is that was the old model, and now everyone's going towards subscription.
Well,
so
the new model is
they need Barbie Plus. They need
Barbie Plus. Yeah, Mattel Plus, basically. Which, they also own Fisher Price, by the way. So I could see them, there's some interesting brands. By the way, do you know they own Uno? It's like their fifth biggest brand. I would love to go to
I'd go to an Uno theme park.
Would you go to an Uno movie? I don't know. American Girl is another brand. Uno, the
American
movie.
Girl, you got movie potential
So it's like
there.
Uno, the movie, is the most repetitive and boring movie of all time.
No. But the second Uno movie is called Dos.
Oh
God.
The bum ching. But so, Britt, I want to unpack this a little bit because I think so obviously there's something intriguing about the three legs of the stool. I think Disney is sort of the poster child for it. I watched a lot of media companies really step in it though. Like BuzzFeed is another one, right? Which was selling everything, I think they built a product line around Tasty there.
But the problem is they are beholden to retailers. Yeah. So when you're beholden to retailers, you're probably going to lose, right? Because retailers are in their own world of hurt right now. Like Brit & Co. had mini lines with Target. And what happened? Target hired a new chief merchandising officer. Target's bottom line started hurting. So they decided to go private label for like half of the products they formerly were buying and just kind of like ripped off the products we were making with their own in-house line. And that can happen at any time. Amazon's doing that right now to so many companies, right? And so if you can own your audience, right, which if you can get them into a subscription, that's one way to own them, and then upsell them on products, like that is a much more viable strategy than being beholden to retail.
I think there's something bigger going on here.
Please.
Sort of two things. One, culturally, the cultures that the trends that start, trends that happen 20 years after, they tend to happen 20 years after the products become popular, because the people that were buying them, and in this case the 90s, are at their peak earning potential. And so you have that happening, number one. And then number two, I think that the growth of the internet, and starting out this conversation with Taylor, and the just intensity of the collective experience that we experienced this weekend, was like beyond anything that I've ever experienced before. And I think the Barbie movie is also this, right? There's this sort of, we were at the restaurant next door to the movie theater the night that Britt was going to Barbie, and like everybody in the restaurant was dressed up as Barbie and Ken and their favorite characters, and they were going to the movie together. And the same thing was going on with Taylor this weekend. And just like, before World War I, there were no gymnasiums and people didn't go to gyms. And then after World War II, the rise of the gym happened because everybody was not working with their body anymore. They were working in offices. I kind of wonder whether or not the same thing's happening with internet, and, how sort of bifurcated culture has become, because we're all like, here we are doing this podcast, over the internet, connecting through digital means. I think people really desire this like tribal connection to other people and to have a shared experience in the real world again. And that to some extent, this is one of the inputs driving this business output that we're talking about. Anyway,
and what do you think will determine like the winners and losers? Because I agree that there's a cultural opportunity for in-person connection, but like, then it's going to be, the time is so scarce, right? So like,
I think Sam's right here. It's business acumen, right? Like, are you able to take this cultural touch point, in this case, Barbie, or Barbie and then Hot Wheels, and translate it into fantastic business outcomes, right? That drive shareholder value. Like, that to me seems like what we're kind of talking about here, is that like, which of these various different ways that you can translate these cultural connection points into business value, and is the output there? And it seems like, Sam, your assertion is like, it's just not showing up in the markets right now yet.
Well, I would say the market set is not there yet. I'm not saying it isn't. I actually think it's pretty impressive and an interesting start. I'm just saying, like, people are not yet giving people, at least not getting, it doesn't look to me like they're giving Mattel credit, right, for this strategy, for the first part of this big strategy that they're going to try to run.
Yeah.
Also, I think there's a halo effect, though. Like I was saying before on our back channel thread, like, most of the marketing and the end consumer is actually a mom, not a little girl. And so like the moms like us, Jess, are in our 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s. And,
do you think that's true? Or is it just millennials? I mean, like, is it just the largest? You guys haven't seen the movie. There's a gynecology joke in the last line of the movie, which no 8-year-old girl is going to understand. Like, this is made for, let's call it millennial moms who maybe actually were disregarding Barbie for the last decade or two because it was like the picture perfect person and and we don't want our little girls to grow up and feel like that, and body image and and now, and that was a core theme in the movie as well. And so I think it's trying to win back over millennial moms so that we buy Barbie products for our children. And I can say, as a mom of a daughter, like, I did shift my perspective shifted on that front. I didn't immediately go buy Barbie products, but is it about I don't think it's about,
your daughter's like 6 months old.
I don't think it's about Barbie products. I think it's about
that's not
experiences.
That's not as far as what the CEO of Mattel is saying, right? What the CEO of Mattel is saying is that historically they did do all the Barbie movies and content that existed was designed to sell toys, and that historically is and that's the wrong strategy.
Yep.
Because monetizing through toys is like a bad way to monetize, but instead just think of it as like IP and what's the best way to let the IP breathe and make money. That's at least the story they're telling.
Well, I'm saying it's just an affinity. Like if I like the movie, I'm more likely to buy a toy. It's not going to be direct affiliation.
But I just guess I'm pushing back on that by saying I think that your assertion that the parks aspect of this, the experiential aspect, is the thing here, which is that the Taylor Swift thing is like this immersive story experience, right? That like you can become part of this story, you can connect with all the other people, and you're getting a 1,300 ticket value, right? Like I think that's the thing that's going on here. It's like the reason, Britt, we took our kids to Super Mario Land at Universal Studios, right? Like we wanted to go to the movie, the kids wanted to have this experience. And, you know, that's where you're going to get your highest ticket prices and your largest margins.
I mean, it's basically the margins in digital are so shitty that if you can get margins in anything else, although those are I don't know what the margins of the park. I mean, that unit.
Oh my God, the margins of the parks. They're over 50%. And it's the upsell. So it's not only the ticket price, but then you're upselling them on products, food, all the upgraded VIP.
And then
passes.
you're gonna get superconductors, and like those rides are gonna go fucking 1,000,000 miles an hour for free.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about those later, Sam. You can't. There's an order to the segments.
The entire Barbie thing to theme parks is really just a superconductor play.
That's what the CEO didn't say.
Okay. So do we think, are there any other broader business lessons to be drawn from Barbie at this point?
Well, who's
I mean, it's a marketing masterpiece.
I was going to say, they spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars
150
on
million.
marketing.
They spent
150
more on the
million.
marketing they did on the movie.
130 million spent on the movie, 150 on marketing.
But isn't that
That's
just
one
Back to the
lesson.
Future? Isn't that just Back to the Future? I mean, I was looking
Sam,
at it
you're
going
very
like, this is what
anti-marketing.
the movie business used to do. They used to wind up and spend on marketing the same amount they spent on the production.
Did they? I have no idea.
They did. Yeah, it used to be usually about 50-50. You know, you'd have like a Avatar or whatever, and it was like 500 million for production, 500 million for marketing.
So a few things. One is I'm curious how they actually spent on it, because it seems like it was a lot of influencer marketing. Like I'm curious if it wasn't. It was like straight
everything.
up billboards.
It was like
Oh,
everything.
no. I mean, it was everything, but like their business development strategy was insane. They did partnerships with like every possible company. I mean, Bumble
They like
had
built a
Barbie
house in
Also, they get,
Malibu.
like Dua Lipa, whatever.
Airbnb. Yes, they did celebrities. They did. That's what I'm saying. Business, like the business development partnerships, whether it was influencers or brands, like that's
it was
where they crushed it.
2023 4 Ps of marketing 101. Like,
And who executed it? Is there someone who's now the master of like fucking spend money across
It's like
everything?
the head of Warner marketing, right? Do you guys think it was helped by Oppenheimer? Like that whole, the Barbieheimer meme? No, we think.
I don't think so.
might have
There was
been
a certain
marginal.
element of luck to this thing too, right? If
Yeah.
you
I
speak
feel
of,
like
cultural
Oppenheimer was
moment.
probably helped by Barbie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. Okay, so the lessons are spend money on marketing.
Well, I think it's go big or go home. Don't spend a moderate amount of money on
yeah,
marketing.
I think that's the
Either go
lesson.
home.
The
Like,
lesson
either
is
go
like do
zero,
marketing.
As is mostly the lessons in life, never ever be in the middle. So it's like I think the lesson is you either spend nothing on marketing or you spend like more money than God on marketing. Do not spend a moderate amount of money marketing anything.
It's a great line for your VCs, everybody. Use it. It will work really well.
You know, you can tell this is going to be the new Masa playbook. Masa's going to be like the vision for 21,000 in the future is we're going to spend $100 billion on marketing.
You know
hope
what?
he's
Someone
listening right
would
now.
eat that up. Someone would eat that up. So, Britt, do you think it will like give a boost to like femtech and just in general, sort of some of these, the more feminist vibes, marketing opportunities in business? Or has it created that big a cultural moment?
I don't think femtech. There's like a female empowerment message that America Ferrera says during the movie. It's like a soliloquy, and it's been passed all around social. It's like, we have to be women. We have to be perfect, but not too perfect. We have to be not super thin, but not super fat. Like, like all these things about like being a woman in today's world. And that's by far the number one thing I've seen passed around as an outcome of this. I think it was like a rallying of like women's empowerment, but I don't know that that's going to produce any tangible outcome. It's just like, I think a brand positive moment for Barbie that they produced that and it's getting passed around.
Yeah. Okay, well, this will be one to watch. I think it's going to be a case study of something.
Before we move on, can I ask one question if anyone knows the answer to it? Which is like, someone's making a lot of money on this. Who?
Warner Brothers.
Is it,
Warner Brothers.
is it
Are
Warner
they?
Brothers?
Are they?
Yeah.
Is
yeah,
it-
I think so.
Okay, is it saving the movie theaters?
Definitely not
for
the
like the
actors
next
because
2
they don't
months?
get any of the
I
royalties,
don't think
right?
it's saving the movie theaters.
For like, I'm not saying forever, like giving them an extra 2 months of life. Like,
They've got too much more runway. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's a big boon and big win for Warner Brothers.
And for Mattel. Did you know Will Ferrell plays the CEO of Mattel in the movie, which is like, it's just amazing. Like Mattel like really branded this well within the script itself. Like they go to Mattel headquarters in the movie. Like it's just a lot of Mattel branding in general, not just Barbie.
Is it a headquarters for ants?
For Uno. It's where you can see people playing Uno in the break rooms.
I hope it doesn't spur like every startup out there to think about what their movie is, which reminds me, has anyone watched the Coinbase documentary? Which is
There's
sort
a
of
Coinbase
random.
documentary?
No.
There is a Coinbase made a documentary about itself. I have not heard the most stellar things about it. But anyway, I'm just thinking for everyone out there thinking, oh, what's my Barbie movie? Don't make a movie about yourself. You're not
don't
that
do that.
interesting. But
Well, no, but if you just have to spend $150 million marketing it, so call Masa.
yeah. Okay,
Or buy
fine.
a 90s IP brand and use it as your brand for your new
Like
startup.
Stussy. Can there be a Stussy movie?
Someone
Stussy's
might do
actually
it.
a massive brand still today in Japan.
I feel like the world is a very strange place right now in startup land. I feel like any of these things are possible, but
It's true.
Okay, let's shift gears to another topic. Britt was alluding to this, but we haven't, I think, appropriately talked a lot about what's happening in commerce on the pod yet, because it also seems like a pretty crazy time. You've got TikTok really pushing ahead in live streaming in a big way. You've got Shein kind of not coming out of nowhere, very fast growing Chinese brand in the fast fashion space that's giving Amazon a run for its money, as reported a few weeks ago in the information. And then you've got Amazon trying to adapt to all of this. And it feels like a pretty consequential time. Britt, give us your view on what's happening.
So I think there's two sides of the coin here. One, just as a consumer, I've been noticing that Amazon continues to get more and more flooded with Chinese factories making the same product, and 20 different factories are competing to make it. And it's kind of like a rush to who can either like search engine optimize their product title or their imagery. Like basically 80% of the time there's something spelled wrong in the words that are over the images, which is why I know, number one, it's from like a different country. And it's made me like really fearful of what I'm buying on Amazon because I'm like, I'm not sure where this is coming from. Why is this one better than the other? And like the quality overall seems to be dropping if you're not looking for a specific brand or a very
Is this a
specific
new
product.
thing though? Hasn't this been going on
It just
for
feels
years?
like it's getting exacerbated. Like I used to see like
Yeah,
2
it's
or
picking
3
up.
of the same product, and now I'm seeing like 20. Like look exactly the same, that have the same title, and so like I just fear that the quality of the products is continuing to drop, and it's harder for the consumer to know what they're buying. But on the flips,
This
go
is
ahead.
a big problem for
what
Amazon.
does this have to do with Shein? But like, what does this have to do with that company?
Before we do that, can I connect this back to the Barbie story though for 1 second? Which is like,
Please.
I actually think
Coherence.
that we went. Here's my through line on this, which is it's the power of actual brands, right? Like I think we went through an era where the internet was like, marketplaces, buy anything from anywhere. Amazon kind of lightly reps that this is like okay because you're buying it, and like you're like, fuck, I don't care. It's some knockoff. It's fine. Now you're like, nope. Actually, those brands where you built trust in a specific product line or a company, those matter, and you're willing to pay premium dollar for them because you don't trust the marketplaces and the intermediaries to make it all basically the same.
Perfect
right?
point,
So I
yeah.
think that's the through line. It's like Barbie, Stussy, like whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Good
a brand
example.
that you know.
And also okay, so there's this thing called the snooze shade. It's like this thing you put around a crib so your baby can actually sleep in the dark when you're traveling. And this company invented it. It's like a mom that invented it. I remember it years ago, but I didn't have like a baby at the time. And then now it came out, I need this thing because I'm about to travel with a baby. And I go and search snooze shade and I get 20 Chinese versions of a snooze shade. And like the actual snooze shade is number 17 in the list. And luckily I knew that's what the brand was and the product was. And I bought that one even though it was $20 more expensive. But like, I was like, the quality's probably better. I'm supporting a like female entrepreneur and a mom. And like, they were the original, like, you know, I don't know how many consumers know that though. And so.
Well, but I think they will. I mean, this is the story on, like, for instance, why creator brands matter, right? Because as curators, which is like all of a sudden, like, you know, I have obviously a pretty strong thesis around why investing in creators is a pretty good idea. And like, and because I think people build trust in units, and those units are the ones that are repping the thing. So it's like, in the end of the day, whether it can't be Amazon because it's too diverse and heterogeneous, right? Like, it's not going to be the Apple App Store, even if they want to rep privacy or something, right? Like, it's going to be individual people in a community, in a vertical you trust. It's going to be Barbie, right? It's going to be Mattel. It's going to be back to the way it was, right? Where like, you don't buy the random shit just because it shows up high in a search result.
I was just going to say, to tie this to the second point, though, and what you were saying, Jess, like, is future of commerce such that social media does win out, like TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, where the curators are the creators and actually like driving you to shop? Is that a better experience than me going to Amazon?
I mean, we should live shop. We should move to live shopping because I'm curious what you guys think, but I can never imagine using this. And I know it is very popular. But the trend you're pointing out, Brett, is a huge problem for Amazon, right? Because if people lose trust in the platform, and so you're seeing what's like, I call it the badgification of Amazon, where they're flagging items that are frequently returned to try and be a signal.
Interesting. I didn't see that.
They have also published in the information, Dave. It's okay. You get 2 freebies a month and then I come after you. But then they also have like different versions of their picks. Now they also have their own white label brands, which I do gravitate towards because of the dynamic you're talking about.
Their picks have been notoriously kind of bad though.
But I feel like they're not going to be unsafe, right? Like
That's true.
They may
That's
not
true.
be perfect.
That's true.
But so it's interesting, you know, because Amazon's trying to be a marketplace, right, and a seller, and that's a bind, but they're kind of working through it. But you can see them grappling with the proliferation.
To me, I think the big tension is between that and their advertising business.
Yeah,
right? Like
well,
Amazon is one of the fastest growing advertising businesses. And like the question, you have 2 models. You have the Google model and the Amazon model of advertising part, which says, hey, here's the deal. The quality is whoever can pay the most. If you can pay the most, then in theory, your business model can support the most, which means you're probably a good company, which means you can be first in front of consumers and everyone wins. That's option A, right? Option B is trusted brand model, which is it could be Amazon reps it directly. Basics, love Basics. They rep it. They built it. Like, it's pretty clear.
They also, by the way, rep
whatever.
dozens of other, sorry to interrupt, but dozens of other brands are their white labels with different names, which I didn't know.
So Kirkland signatures, like, fuck, you just trust Kirkland signatures, like 365, you know, whatever at Whole Foods. Then you have the influencer version, which is like, look, not everyone in the world knows who the hell this person is, but I follow them on Instagram. I like their stuff. I have a relationship with them. I basically pay them. They curate shit for me and I trust it, right? Like, there's a bunch of different models, but at the end of the day, it just comes down to like, how do you decide effectively in a store with infinite window space, right? Which is what the internet is. Mm-hmm. What do you trust to buy and like, what are you willing to pay? There are things you're like, you don't care. You'll go rock bottom price because it literally doesn't matter, right? But I think in most purchases, in most contexts where you need it to work, you need it to be good, you need to be safe, like there are different degrees of this. You either trust a brand, whether it's a person, like an influencer or Mattel, right? Or you end up with some sort of bake-off, right? And the bake-off advertising model has its benefits, but I think what you're seeing is that that's stressed out.
And is what's going on with Shein, or how do you say it? Shein?
Yeah.
Is the thing that's going on here a pretty classic battle, almost venture capital style, or Walmart style, where they're effectively underpricing everything in Amazon and driving extraordinary growth, and then using that to
fashion.
achieve in fashion specifically, and then achieving that position that Sam's describing? Is that what's going on?
Well, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the real story is that their hack and the fast fashion thing in general is saying people are buying things to use them one time, right? So if I need it repped, not that it's going to last, not that it's good, right? But that I can wear it one time and it is cheap as shit. That's what their brand promise is, and that's very different than the brand promise of most clothing.
I don't believe that's what they say. They don't say cheap as shit.
Well, I
one
have
time.
purchased something from Shein, and it was $13, and it lasted 1.5 times.
Right. So it's basically like what they're actually selling against is the washing machine. They're basically saying, throw out your washing machine.
But
right.
they've been
No,
successful
H&M.
because they're doing this
H&M.
through social media. Like TikTok and
They're
Instagram
doing
have
it
been their
through
biggest
TikTok.
platforms.
Exactly.
And so like
But this
is
isn't new. Fast fashion isn't new. So what are they really doing here? They're just driving extremely low prices.
extremely like $13 for a shirt.
and social distribution, right? So to Sam's point,
Do I understand that they're also now allowing third-party sellers on top of their marketplace? And so that's why they and Amazon are in conflict?
they're going much further after U.S. audiences with sort of marketing and all that kind of stuff and distribution. There is also, we shouldn't forget, like, Chinese companies in the U.S. are under a lot of scrutiny. So it'll be very, now they're not in a business as sensitive as TikTok's, but
And like
it's kind of
fast
unclear.
fashion, most notably Shein, has been very much accused of child labor illegalities.
Yeah, because again, I think that my understanding of the Shein promise and in general is people are not buying clothes, right? They're not buying environmental anything. They're literally buying the cheapest possible Instagram look for one-time use, right? And that is just a different segment of the market that unfortunately for probably the environment and child labor seems to be very appealing to a lot of people who want to take one Instagram photo. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's like, that's the interesting thing is like, I'd actually argue like, while it is technically competing with Amazon, it's like in some ways it's like just a new, brutally honest market segment, right? Being like, actually, this isn't even clothing, right? Like, we're not even selling you a thing that's a comparable product, right? We're selling you a separate thing, which is for $30, you can have your look of the day one time and then chuck it and don't worry about your morals. Which again, I do have a judgment on.
Yeah,
but
and I actually did just look it up. They did launch a marketplace on May 4th of this year. So they're actually trying to compete more broadly.
they're also one of the first in line to IPO in the U.S. when the market, well, I think in the U.S. I'm not 100% sure about that. Yeah, in the U.S. And then it says 32 billion in revenue. So there's something to it.
I think it's like a real product innovation though, which is kind of like the brutally honest Instagram look, right? Where you're like, I know that it's child labor and I know that it's terrible to the environment, but it's so cheap. And it's like a different segment of the market that they actually kind of, fast fashion obviously existed before, but I think they've discovered a hyper fast fashion version, right? With a vertical app, which is, again, sounds kind of bad on paper, but seems like a real thing.
Which, to tie it back to the original discussion, like the amount of people at the Taylor Swift concert that probably bought Shein products for a one-time look was quite high. And I know we did this for like, we went to the Elton John concert and I was like, oh, I need Elton John sunglasses and whatever.
You guys get out so much. I love it. Good for you.
Yeah,
we love live music.
And you do have like a newborn too. It's very impressive.
Yeah, so look, Taylor Swift, who's making money on the Taylor Swift concert, it's Taylor Swift's making the money, but then Shein's getting $30 per head times whatever revenue multiple they're getting, right? So they might be doing just fine in this equation as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms of like the brutal reality of this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Barbie probably had a lot of Shein.
Yeah, maybe Shein's gonna make more money on Barbie than Barbie makes on Barbie.
Sam, we figured out the answer to your question. Shein's making all the money.
Someone's making the money.
$32 billion is a lot of like one-use crop tops.
It's 6 times Mattel.
Well, times every live experience in the country.
Yeah, these are things. So I don't know.
Actually,
There's something to watch here.
this.
Okay, well, you do the math. I want to related live shopping. So this is a huge area
What
of
is
focus.
live shopping?
Live shopping is
HSN. Now it's all moved to social media.
but move to social media. So you're going
Like
to
on
watch
TikTok?
Yes. This is TikTok's business model. To be clear, this is what Show thinks will take it to the moon. It's huge in China with Douyin. And
Yeah, it's always been the case in China, but it's never really taken off here.
I agree. And so what do you guys think? Can you see it?
Is this, just so I understand, like, because I've never understood this either. It's literally just QVC, social QVC.
Yeah, Instagram
It's like
Live.
if Mr. Beast was doing QVC. Yes.
Slow.
Why
You guys.
does anyone watch that?
Okay. Hello, slow
Everybody
ventures
watches
investors.
it.
Hello, Dave and Sam. Micmac.
No, I know we invested in it. I don't even understand why it worked.
Well, to be clear, it didn't work back then, but now it is working.
I mean,
So
I
Is
think
that what we're
people-
saying?
Don't people have better shit to watch?
No, they don't.
I mean, Sam, there's a lot of people that pay for a lot of things on the internet to watch.
they follow.
Yeah, but that's
Sam, this is your premise of creators.
Some of it is tipping too, right?
I was going to
Some
say,
of
do we need to
it's
explain
tipping.
this in Sam language? Yeah.
But
Creators.
Sam language, the point is there's a higher octane heroin than QVC, right, on the internet. So, like, in the option, when you have the infinite store of attention heroin on the internet, how is it that QVC is still a relevant thing
Well,
versus it being like,
Because,
Okay, Sam,
can I explain
here.
this to you?
I'm gonna respond to Sam and say that your assertion earlier that the creators as curators part of the internet is really important. Is that's what's happening here? Is you're giving
100%.
creators a
100%.
live
But-
shopping curation affiliate
But
business?
If I got a post for creator be like, buy this shit, I'm like,
No,
I'd buy
it's not that.
I'll buy
Okay.
stuff.
Let me explain it to you. Liberty Media, who owns QVC and HSN, also invested in Brit & Co. I've been
Love
on
Liberty.
HSN and QVC.
We all love liberty.
Yes.
So
Thank
here's
God
the
we have
thing.
Brit.
The thing that sells products is demoing the products. And to sell, like, that's why beauty is a key category of what works on these live shopping platforms, because you're showing how to apply the makeup and look at the before and after and how beautiful she looks and and like.
Britt, will you
know-
do a more or less live shopping segment?
Yeah, sure. Let's pick our 10
right,
favorite
cool.
products, but they have to be demo worthy. So when you see me go live on Instagram and I'm a beauty influencer and I'm showing you this new like face patch thing that instantly makes my wrinkles look better, like that's going to take me like 20 minutes to show you, and you're going to be wanting to see the before and after. And then when you see the after and it's amazing, you're totally going to buy the product. And the conversion rate is so much higher in those demonstrations.
How do you think Sam found Jennifer Aniston's peptides?
I love Jennifer Aniston's peptides. She looks great. But I don't understand the thing I get. And like, there's that. Who's the toy kid who's like the YouTube
Ryan.
billionaire toy?
Oh, Ryan.
Toys.
Yeah.
Ryan's everything. Look, I get the reviews. I get what is this? I Google it. I pull it up. Or like, oh shit, I want this. And then like some influencer tells me that this is the best one. I'm like, cool. Like, Dude Perfect sells me a fucking Frisbee. I get it. But like, what I don't get is someone actually watching this shit. Right?
Yeah.
They
And
do.
so,
People
like,
do.
It's just like
there
before
was
and
a
after.
period of COVID. I watched a lot of YouTube beauty videos, and just because it was like, oh,
home
I should
product
moisturize
before
more.
and after. You'll do it as an interior design segment. So it's like watching HGTV, but little did you know. You can
Sam,
also
I
buy
just
these
think we're not in
curtains
the
and all these
audience
things.
segment.
You know what I would watch before and afters of is power washing. If you could have before and after power wash, but I'm not gonna like buy. You'd be like, tell me to buy the power washer. I
What
buy
are
the
you
power
power
washer.
washing? Are we talking
I
like
love power washing.
power washing your house? Is that what we're
Anything. I'll power
Oh,
wash anything.
So what Sam needs is Tim the Tool Time Taylor live
Tool
shopping
man.
network. Yeah. Tim the
No,
Tool
but
Man.
it's just
Yeah.
different. There's the thing I just want to separate though is someone's like, I want a power washer. Then I'm like, sweet. The tool dude tells me the power washer. I buy the fucking power washer. Great. Shopping. Then there's like, I literally just want to watch before and afters of power washing because it's the best, right? And like that's a totally separate part of my brain. The idea that
would
like there's
watch-
value in hybridizing those, I don't get.
You would watch a power washing competition.
Yes, yes, I would.
Sam would go to the live power washing experience.
I absolutely would, and I would go to the. If
Can
there
we
was-
keep track
if
of
there
all
was-
of Sam's favorite content? I've got AI porn, Japanese reality TV, and power washing competitions.
Great.
So
That's the Sam Network.
If someone started a theme park called Power Washing World, I would absolutely go to that.
Oh my god, that's kind
Okay,
of like
we're
on
gonna-
Shark Tank. They had the giant. You can go like use giant power equipment.
Oh,
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
Heavy earth moving.
Heavy earth moving equipment, yeah.
Here's one. Cat. If there was a cat movie and then
Ooh.
a cat live experience with heavy machinery,
like Caterpillar.
then
all day,
Yeah.
Caterpillar.
Okay.
all day.
That is a
I don't
brand I think is
where this
under
is
leveraged. We
going.
should look at what that is trading at, because there's a real brand with IP value.
Some IP value. I'd like to do our last bonus segment before we wrap on superconductors.
Indeed.
A lot of buzz around them this week. I don't know about you guys. Whenever I hear it, I think of Super Trooper from ABBA, and I sing that song in my head. That's probably not what happens, but
That's not a common
doesn't happen
association.
to
That's
me.
not what
No.
happens for me. Yeah.
okay, I'm sharing. Let's fill viewers in on any news they missed and tell us why you guys are excited. There were a lot of tweets
Yeah.
about it.
There's been a big breakthrough in
Maybe.
superconductor technology. Alleged
Here's
breakthrough.
the skepticism. Here's the less.
It's
It would be
called
great if it's true.
It's called LK99. It's potentially a room temperature superconductor. And there is supposedly a second, this happened at Korea University. And,
What is a superconductor?
Korea University sounds like a theme park, so it's actually the name.
so room temperature superconductors are materials that
Yes.
conduct electricity with zero resistance at or near
Yes.
room temperature, which means there's no energy loss when the electricity flows through the superconductor, which, just by purely that statement would revolutionize how energy works. I mean, it would mean you could transmit energy over enormously large distances with almost no loss. You could do that inside of computer chips. You could do it,
We have trains that just go like
trains.
Well, but really interestingly, you get batteries that you can store with no energy loss associated with it, which would be a massive deal.
Yep.
You probably get fusion,
Yep.
right? Because all the shit you need to do to contain fusion all of a sudden becomes a lot easier to do. Like
You get better memory, like computer memory there's resistance involved in that. You're able to store things extremely fast, compute
you
extremely
probably
fast.
get better live shopping experiences.
Oh,
You get
don't
better
say. You don't say.
health-related technology. A lot of the ways that we can see inside the body revolve around electromagnetic fields and the, using giant magnets and MRIs. You get probably smaller versions of those. One of the other cool things that we can't do today is we can't measure the magnetic field of a single atom. Like that's not possible today. And so you're potentially able to do that. I mean, this is a really revolutionary thing. If it's true, it could be on the order of the transistor, the discovery of electricity, like these kinds of things. Like it's up there in terms of the impact that it could have.
So what's the next step? Is just we got to replicate it or expand
Well,
it?
the guys, so it's kind of a wild story of these like Yahoo inventor, scientists, is my understanding, who no one's been listening to and have been kind of working in a cave with no support. And so it's one of those great things where like, if it's true, and it would be so cool if it were, right? Like, then you have this like great like Promethean story of like the loners who no one's listened to and everyone thought was stupid, who turn out to be right and literally change the world deeply fundamentally. Like, candidly, it's like people are so worried about the climate crisis. It's like, you want to solve climate? Yeah, like get like room stable superconductors. Like the downstream effects of that are like so
It's
good
crazy.
for climate change.
It's
and things like that.
crazy.
So it would be like totally fucking great if it were true. Unfortunately, the fact these guys are crazy loners that no one listened to are completely on the outside. Like they make Albert Einstein at the patent office look mainstream, right? Like means that like, it's you got, it would be so cool, but I'm worried. We'll find out.
What percentage do you give it, Sam?
It's not my domain. I have no idea, but like it's
One
one
of
of
my
those things where like,
one of my favorite things on this is looking at these manifold prediction markets. And there's actually a pretty active thread on this prediction market around this. And there's like lots of
What are the
people that are
odds?
quite technically, let me look it up. The odds right now are 35%, but the market's actually trending up, not down. So, and there's just a lot of activity, there's a lot of different labs all over the world trying to replicate this. And
well, it's
see.
also fun. I mean, can I just point out the two reasons I think it'd be so fun if it were true? Beyond the fact it would probably save us from climate crisis and a bunch of other cool stuff. Just little things like that.
Minor.
Is like one, I just love the story. Like I think one of the most important Western stories is the crazy loner who kind of on their own picks out fire from the gods. Like, that's the story I love, right? And it's the Promethean story, it's the Einstein story, it's the Satoshi story, right? It's the Newton story. It's like the story of like the crazy people, like let them do their thing and justify them doing crazy stuff, right? And like being the fringe characters versus like the mainline Borg or like the mainline Empire, because they're the ones that really change the world. It is like, here's to the crazy ones. And so like, it'd be so cool from like a narrative and history perspective, and so justifying for like the next major breakthrough to come this way versus like incrementalism. The second thing is like, this would just like wreak havoc on the markets. Like, we have these kind of market, like of what's valuable, what's not, you know, what companies are worth anything, what's not. Like, it just is, it's so fundamentally disruptive, right? Were it to be true. It's kind of what I love about crypto, for what it's worth, right? Is like, if crypto happens the way it's like, it's deeply disruptive to the finance world. Yeah. If this happens, it's like deeply disruptive to like most of the economy, right? And like, so the havoc that would wreak, right? And like the kind of reorientation of what's valuable and what's not, and who's rich and who's poor and everything else would just be totally disruptive and amazing, right? If it's real. So it's a very exciting prospect.
Okay, so we got it. We're going to bring it to a close with a poll. More or less superconductors? Meaning, are you with the more being? Should we make it about the a probability calculation, or just a general enthusiasm?
But we're all doing crapshoots, so it's fine.
Yeah. So what? Make it a probability. So the markets are at 35% game changing. Dave,
yeah,
what's
and the timeline on that is: will the LK99 room temperature ambient pressure superconductivity preprint replicate before 25? Meaning, will somebody be able to replicate this?
One time.
One time. I'll say yes. Feeling good today. Feeling like the world's got some innovation left in it.
I'll say yes on one-time replication. And I'll go further to say, like, this is my AI killer scenario where, like, it's so disruptive if it happens, right? That like, it's worth putting a lot of effort in trying to figure it out. Like, some people want to put that into, you know, AI safety. I'd say put all that money into this, because this actually has almost as deep, if not deeper, implications and is super tantalizing.
Throwing more money at it might not change science, but that's a different question. Brett.
No, agreed. But like, if it turns out, I don't know.
It's not Barbie.
Yeah, is there a franchise to be built here?
This is the only podcast, by the way, where you're going to get both a discussion of Barbie, Shein, and superconductivity in one shot.
Mm-hmm. We're going to put that in our marketing message.
Better for it.
I mean, don't we all have to say yes here? I mean, we want this to be the case. And one time by 2025, I feel like is not that crazy. And yeah, I'm excited for havoc as well. I like Sam's point of view on that.
Dave?
Bring it home, Dave.
I'm definitely on the more side here. There's also the national lab, Lawrence Livermore Berkeley. They used their supercomputers to simulate. I guess they call it a heavy duty compute from the Department of Energy, and they simulated whether this was possible based on the LK99 paper, and the simulation supports that this is possible. So there's a lot of stuff happening that is pointing in the right direction.
So what are we short, guys? What are we short?
No, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there.
Okay.
Because
but I think
answer us on social media at more or less.
Send me your best shorts if we get
Sam
superconductivity
wants to bet against something. So, but I want to end by congratulating
there's
us.
companies that
we just want to make money.
Going to zero.
Yeah, we just want to make money. It's not betting against.
And help our listeners make money.
But but I think it's way too early to even like think about that, right? Because maybe it's not, but
I don't know if it happens as fast as this is a fairly simple thing to synthesize, actually. So it could happen really fast.
Maybe they can only get it to work 1 in 1,000 times, but it's just like there's a bunch of stuff that's going to go from being worth a lot of money to nothing if superconductivity works. That's super exciting. There's a bunch of other stuff. What?
wouldn't it just be the existing infrastructure that tries to do all these things with?
So now we're back to the AI discussion, right? Which is super disruptive technology. Who wins? Is it the incumbents who already make this shit who just now make superconductors? Is it, what mines of like for battery materials do we like no longer need, right? Like all of a sudden overnight, because like we can just store energy perfectly.
Exactly.
Right?
You know who doesn't win? X. I was going to congratulate.
But Tesla
There's
will.
going to be so much conversation about this that X is going to have so much engagement.
That's true. We're going to have to debate our collective society havoc on some platform.
It's the climate technology. It's like desalinization plants. Don't need those anymore, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
okay, you make a list, Sim.
Chris Sacca's fund might be screwed.
There might be.
I'm an LP.
There might be propulsion things that happen here that are really fascinating.
We're also going to make ridiculous guns.
That's a good point.
Well, okay. Here's actually, you know what? Either it potentially goes to zero
This
or
is going to have to be the last thought because we're at time, and I want to protect our listeners' time.
SpaceX, right? Because on
Goes
one
to
hand,
zero? Whoa.
well, just hear me out. On one hand, space becomes super accessible. You can just like fucking like shoot something into space, no problem with like that types of some of those energy space becomes really accessible, but
all transportation goes that way.
Everything that they've invested in terms of rockets, I think becomes less valuable. Or now do they just like shoot their shit into that orbit and then like set it up and fly off to Mars more quickly? Like these are the interesting questions. Like I'm not sure whether that helps or hurts. Space becomes way more accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that's good or bad for SpaceX.
So Elon loses no matter what in all of this, right? Is that what you're saying?
Or wins because he's going to be the first guy lining up to make this shit. I don't know.
He's on a plane to South Korea right now. Is basically probably what the answer is.
Is that because of fast fashion?
I don't know that
totally.
I don't know that he needs to be on a plane. He can just replicate it in his in the lab, right? Like
yeah, that's
I don't think
true.
he has a lab
That's
for
true
this.
too.
All right.
Well, any way you slice it, guys, it's interesting times. So let's give a thanks to all our listeners. Big shout out and thanks to our back channel for keeping us smart and on topic. Again, thank you guys for listening. Send us feedback. We're just so happy to do this every week and to hear from you. So have a great one. Talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.